Welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. Thank you guys for joining me today. I'm so excited. I am going to have a little fireside chat with my good friend, Brooke Thomas. Brooke Thomas is a phenomenal human being. She has been a friend for over a decade. She's an entrepreneur. She's a wife. She's a mother of two. She's the host of the Live Out Loud podcast, and she is a connector of women. So, Brooke, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. And, you know, I'm always on brand for you, girl.
I know.
I'm burning blue.
You're burn blue, baby. I need that. You need to send me the link.
I'm
ASAP.
totally going to send it to you. You know I will.
So, Brooke, today we're going to talk about chasing our dreams and overcoming comparison and just cultivating women's empowerment and just women relationships, because you and I both know that is not super easy to come by. And you certainly, like I mentioned in your bio, are a connector of women, and the community and the culture that you represent is, you know, no negativity, no competition, no tearing one another down. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about that and how you've gotten there. So welcome. Thank you for being here. I know you love Burn and you've supported Devin and I since day one. So anything you want to say before we dive in today?
I mean, you know, I'm your biggest fan. I'm you. First of all, Burn's biggest fan. I've been there since the beginning in the parking lot days.
Yes.
And it really does have such a special place in my heart. And I was actually just doing a story right before we met, and I was like, okay, if you don't have a Burn near you, you need to buy one. You need to franchise one. If you have one near you, grab your girls and go. And it's just been so amazing to watch the growth of Burn. I have so many friends that own Burns, and also, you know, to watch you just step into the CEO role as a woman has been, you know, just so encouraging and empowering, not only to me, but my entire network. So, you know, Live Out Loud and Burn are very similar. You know, we share a similar vision for women. And so anytime I get a chance to talk to you and your community, I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. And likewise, you know, I love the community that you've represented. I've been a part of it for the last couple of years in your mastermind, in your Queen's Table, you know, but Brooke, it didn't start that way for you. So, you know, you remember my early days were in the parking lot. Let's talk a little bit about your early days, you know, when you decided to pursue your passions and your dreams and what that looked like.
Well, you were there too, those early days. You know,
we all have them.
It's so nice to have friends and to have, you know, business colleagues that can actually see the growth, because I think we just have such a deep respect and love for where we are now and where we used to be. And there's actually a worship song that I love. It's by Elevation Music, and it says, "If you knew me then, you would understand now," like why it's so important, you know, and so meaningful. If you knew me then, you'd understand kind of why we feel the way we do now. But, you know, early days for sure, really what got me started into everything and really got me kind of just pursuing my passion was that stage 3 cancer diagnosis that I went through at 26 years old. It's been 20 years now. Can you believe it? 20 years. I was 26 years old. And, you know, my oldest daughter now is 19. And it's just crazy to think, but that was my moment in time that just stopped me from, you know, really, it got me on the journey. I wouldn't say it happened right then, but it got me on the journey of stopping people pleasing and really stopping, you know, really doing everything that the world wanted me to do and what people told me to do. And it allowed me to understand who I really was, where I was going, and how short life is. And I think just really discovering my purpose through that, you know, just discovering again who I was, what I was passionate about. It's definitely evolved. It used to be more health and wellness, which turned into then high performance, you know, with business women, but it's all the same. You know, when we're chasing health and, you know, really that higher level of ourselves, you know, for me, it kind of merged into business and helping women grow their business, but we're all doing the same thing. I mean, especially how we both feel, Morgan, about just women in general and how, you know, just how we feel about them being the best version of themselves. And that's why you and I have always shared such a passion for just zero tolerance policy for gossip, jealousy, bitterness, because we just don't have time for that. Successful people don't have time for that. When you're on a mission to really make an impact on this earth, there's no time for that. And when you actually don't spend time doing that and you're growing and building, you make so much more happen in a faster amount of time. And yes, along the way, we make a lot of mistakes, but surround yourself with people that encourage you and tell you who you are instead of who you're not. And you end up building all the things you're supposed to build.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am now. So
Yeah. Yeah. It didn't start the way that, like you mentioned, it didn't start this way. It started with just healthy eating and healthy living because you had that cancer scare. And I remember it was like, now I need to make decision to take control of my life. And health is so much more than your exercise and what you eat. It's also who you surround yourself with. So just like you said, like your business has evolved to so much more, and, you know, really showing women that they can live out their purpose and they can chase their dreams. And, you know, they don't have to choose between being a mom and a wife and being an entrepreneur or, you know, going after something. And so that's what I love about your message. I certainly try to preach that same message because, you know, we both have, you have 2 kids, I have 3 kids, you know, you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you know, you're a podcast host, like, and I've watched you stay busy. You supported Brett through his career. And, you know, tell me a little bit about balancing these roles and what is your philosophy around, you know, having it all?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in balance. You know,
Same.
I can try to say that I want it, but you know, I can really truly say now that I have 2 daughters that are 16 and 19, and you've watched a lot of this, Morgan, since they were little. And you're right. You know, I went after everything that I felt like I should go after, especially when people told me I shouldn't. You know, I did have, and you knew, you were around when my kids were little, and I was discouraged by other women that would say, you can't do it. You can't do both. You have to choose. You have to choose to be a mom or a businesswoman. You can't do both. And I remember, I mean, I'm a different woman now than I was, obviously, you know, 10, 12 years ago. And I do remember having moments of feeling discouraged, defeated, intimidated by women, especially women that, you know, would say things to me that I thought, well, what if that's true? And I had to really, you know, be just intentional about surrounding myself with women that would encourage me and build me up. And that's why I love Burn so much, because that's your philosophy. That's who you are. And you represent that for women. And then other women have just the permission to do that too, because I do believe that we should and could and can do it all. You might need to delegate. Different seasons call for different things, but you should never delay the call on your life, the purpose on your life, because I do believe you can do both. You just have to do it differently during different seasons. And I was a much, much better mom knowing that I gave myself permission to build the things that I knew I was supposed to build. And I just figured it out. There were some moments where I brought the kids with me, put them on my hip. You know, I mean, you were there for a lot of it, Morgan. Like even when I came to Burn and did presentations, you know, at other places, sometimes I would have my kids with me. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I had nannies, babysitters. Sometimes I delegated certain things. And I just gave myself permission to do it because it was a much more joyful life for me once I started doing that, instead of like trying to listen to the world or other people that were not me telling me what I should do. And so that's why you were a big catalyst of, you know, just that support, you and Devin back then. And now again, it's cool to see your kids growing, and you guys just showing up and bringing your kids along the way. And also sometimes you can't, but you know, that's your calling and that's your anointing and your purpose, and the amount of people that you've impacted just by saying, yes, I'm going to do it. And what your kids watch. I will say one other thing. I want to really encourage all the moms that have little kids, young kids, and you're not sure how it's really going to turn out. I can tell you how it turned out. And it makes me emotional because my 16 and 19-year-old tell me all the time, thank you. Thank you so much for showing us what's possible. Thank you so much for always giving us permission to do what we want to do. Like my daughter's in college in Alabama, across the country, because I live in Florida now. I didn't want her to go across the country. But she said, Mom, this is where I feel like I'm supposed to go. And you've always given me permission to pursue what I feel because I've watched you pursue what you feel. And look how it turned out. And I was like, oh, how could I say no? But it really makes me feel so happy that they are empowered and confident. And I believe as women, that's what we have to do for each other.
Yeah.
So there's my rant.
Well, I'm so glad you said that. And it actually did give me the chills because you've got to see now full circle, like those sacrifices when they were in those early years and you were in that season of, they were highly dependent on you. And, you could have taken a role of stay-at-home mom. You probably were given that option, based on your situation. And
Mhm.
you chose to pursue something that was, that was called on your heart. And I think as we're both women of faith, and you've obviously helped me a lot when it comes to navigating like being a mom and also like building this empire and having this impact on people. And there was a message that I saw on social media, which is like red flag number one, but it was about, it wasn't a Christian page, and it was talking about how like women are now outsourcing motherhood, and it was kind of shamey. It was kind of like at least it made me feel like judged
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
I have a nanny and I choose to work, and I feel this calling on my life that's going to show my kids as their mother lessons that maybe I couldn't show them, or I don't know how to show them if I chose not to take this career, and this
Mhm.
job to the next level. And so, I felt like that was a discouraging message, at least to me. And I can't imagine how that would feel to other women who maybe are
Mhm.
thinking about chasing their dreams, but they're worried about, what does that mean for me as a mom or a wife and like taking care of the home. And, I want to give people permission that you're not a bad mom if you're outsourcing. I actually really dislike that word because, there's some people out there that don't even have that choice, right? They have to have childcare. They have to go to work.
Yeah.
Both parents have
Yeah.
to work to provide for their family. And so I would just love like maybe a couple of thoughts on how you feel. Have you seen any messaging like that? And maybe it's just me and the season of life I'm in that I'm a little insecure of, am I being a good mom? But I just really don't want people to lean into that message if they're choosing the pathway of, work outside the home.
Yeah, I love this conversation. I really want to speak to this. Like, I really want to sit here for a moment because, first of all, I just want to say I know that both of us feel that if any woman feels like they are a true stay at home mom and that is their job, that is like
Yes,
one of the hardest jobs on the planet. You and I have talked
absolutely.
about that and we support that. However,
Absolutely.
right now we are speaking to the women that want to pursue passion, purpose, a job, or you are, I'm not going to say outsourcing being a mom, but maybe you're outsourcing certain things like somebody amazing that, is taking care of your kids while you're changing the world or impacting the
Yeah.
world, and you still can be a great mom. I'll never forget, Morgan, and I don't know if you remember this. You might not. There was a lot of tears that I had when my kids were younger. And I remember I felt safe with you, and I'm sure I told you a lot of this stuff. And there were women around me at the time that did tell me when I started to pursue different businesses. I had such a passion to pursue this health and wellness business.
Yeah.
And it was just something I couldn't shake in my gut. And I know there's women listening and you know what I'm talking about. There's just something inside of you. You have gifts inside of you that can never be removed. 2 Peter 1:3 says that we have gifts that have been deposited inside of us and we're supposed to use them in this life. But if we don't activate them and we're not awake to the opportunities in front of us, then they
Mhm.
never get used. They're
Yeah.
there. I believe that everyone has an anointing to do what they're called to do. I feel like everyone has gifts, but a lot of times we don't use them because we just can't see clearly, or we're not activated, or we're not around the right people. And I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. I was going after this, pursuing this dream, and it was really like in my soul, in my gut, because of what I had gone through with the cancer diagnosis and everything. I
Mhm.
just got so on fire for helping people to become healthy, and just took me down this whole path. You know about it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget women, especially the women that lived in my neighborhood at the time. Every chance they got, they wanted to tell me that like, why was I doing that?
Mhm.
And, I should just really focus on being a mom, especially until my kids graduated from high school. And then I should pursue. And my kids were little, like 2 and 5.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, ugh, that's so long. That's so far away.
Mhm.
I want to do it now.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand why another woman would try to discourage me because I felt like I could be both at the time. But thankfully, I didn't listen to those women because it was discouraging. But then I talked to other women and I kind of gained my own, idea about what I could do. And what I decided, first, the way that we operate in our home, it's God first, then marriage, then the kids, then whatever you decide underneath that,
Mhm.
business, friends, whatever. But, I knew that if I felt peace from God about this, like if it's in I feel like if it's in our spirit, if
Yeah.
it's in our gut, if it's in our heart, I'm just going to believe that God gave it to me. That's how I
Mhm.
operate. So I have peace about it. Then I'm going to go to my husband. Hey, are you cool if I do this? I do think that, spouses, it's easier when a spouse is supportive. Not all
Yeah.
spouses are supportive. I get
Yeah.
it, but it's easier. And sometimes as a woman, we just need to tell our spouse. That's another little tip I'm going to give you real quick. Sometimes if we go to our spouse and we act like we're not sure, they're just trying to be protective. They might not be supportive because they don't know how sure you are.
Yeah.
I find that if you are sure and you want to pursue something, go to your spouse and say, hey, I really feel excited about this. This is going to make me a better wife, a better mom, a better woman. And most spouses will support if you go at it like that. And then same thing with your kids. We get to decide. My husband and I get to decide what that looks like to be the best parents
Yeah.
and the best at our jobs. And I remember the greatest advice I got, and it was actually from Christine Kane, which I know you love Christine
I
Kane
love
too.
her. Yes.
We were able to go on a trip with her and it was awesome. But
Awesome.
so anyway, with her, she said to me, she said, listen, a lot of times people will tell you their opinion about what they think you should do with your kids or how often you should show up. She goes, I'm gone changing the world all over the globe, and I'm not there as much as most moms. But what I do is I talk to my kids about it.
Yes.
And I say, what is the most important thing? And I started picking that up, and I've done that my girl's whole life. Like, what is the most important thing that I'm at for you this month? How can I show up for you the most? And we have these conversations, and sometimes I miss the things that they had scheduled that was important to them.
Yeah.
Instead of being frantic, thinking that I've messed up as a parent and they're never going to forgive me, I just lean in and I say, okay, I'm not able to make that. Now, if it's something so important, I'll always move things around. We always try to manage our business around our kids, life. But sometimes we miss the mark. Sometimes, we've already planned something, like say it's a speaking engagement, say it's a retreat or an event, and then the school puts something on top of that.
Which happens all the time, I feel like.
Right? And I'm like, I thought I had it planned. We put the kids' calendar in first.
Yeah.
But when that happens, instead of freaking out thinking, I'm a horrible parent, they're never going to forgive me, I lean in and I'm like, okay, here's what happened. I tried to do what I thought was right, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to have somebody else special there for you. I'm so sorry if this hurts. I want you to know how much I love you and I value you. So what can I do for you after this? Like, what can I do that would make you feel really special? A lot of times we overcompensate. They're okay. They're fine. Sometimes my kids are like, thank goodness I wanted that 20-something-year-old to hang out with me instead of, you. And so it's all in the way of your delivery, and it's all in the way that you really handle being that parent and what that looks like for your family. We are very, not traditional when it comes to things, and it's worked for us. And we have a very close relationship with our kids. And, I'm proud of who they are because of who we decided to be as parents. And so I would just say, take the stigma away from what that looks like. You get to design what you think being a good mom is. And don't listen to what other people say about what that means to them to outsource, because that doesn't feel good to hear that as a mom. But I feel like we could turn that around and say, we're teaching our kids what outsourcing is and delegation and love. Because let me tell you something, when I'm with my kids, I am with them and they feel my love and they know I would jump, if they need me. And I know you're that kind of mom too. But we've got business to do. We've got the world to change. We've got an impact to make. And I'm proud of that. And I see that in my kids. And they see, I always said this, and I know you agree with this, Morgan. I always said, I will never build anything that my kids can't be in the room and listen to the conversations.
Yep.
And they have always heard, like every time they hear us on a call or they in our atmosphere, just like yours, building up people. So when they have friends that gossip or that are not nice, they don't get it. They're like, I don't understand, mom. Or they hear other moms doing that. They say to me now, I'm so glad that you weren't that kind of mom that did that. And so that matters. Everything we do, they watch and it matters.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that you said that, it's rooms that they get to be in. And I've watched your girls at the rooms that you're in and the events that you're hosting. And that's a big thing that I've taken from you is like, include my kids in as much as I can. bring them to as many events that I can. They haven't missed a single summit. They haven't missed these
Yeah.
big events, so they can really see what mom and dad are doing, why when we're away, like what is the impact that we're having. And you know what, like the nannies that I've had and anyone that I brought into my home to help me, they love my kids so much. And I also believe that my kids need to be surrounded by multiple people that love them, right? And it's not just mom and dad. And so thank you for sharing your heart on that. It's reassured me a little bit, because I told you I was feeling a certain way. And I think that is the social media trap of like, it doesn't have to look the way it looks for somebody else. And it doesn't mean you're right and they're wrong, or you're wrong and they're right. Like, it just means it looks different, and we all need to be okay with being different.
Yeah.
So
definitely. And surrounding ourselves with other moms that really encourage that in us. I mean, both of us feel this way. It's like, let's spend more time telling each other who we are and who we can be instead of who we're not. And so it doesn't really come at me ever anymore, just little bits here and there. But it used to take me out when I was a younger mom. And I just want to encourage women, if you're around anybody that is telling you who you're not or what you shouldn't do, or they're criticizing you as a mom or a businesswoman, I'm sorry, but it's time to maybe cut that friendship off, or just, have some separation or pause for a little bit, because sometimes people don't realize how much that impacts and affects your ability to do what you're called to do. And just find some other women that will really build you up. And again, I'm going to go back to like shameless plug about Burn and my community.
And Live Out Loud. Yeah, I was just going to say.
Because it's like women grow in environments like that. When you call each other higher and there's no competition, because when you take up any space, and you participate in anything else, it just causes like I don't know, like dead things. Like it doesn't feel good for anybody. And it causes you to question that initial, I'm always like, go off that initial feeling that that you want to accomplish, and don't go water it down with other people's opinions that don't even understand it. Be around people that are like, yes, you go girl, high five, all the things we do.
Yeah. And a lot of the times the negative opinions are coming your way because it's their own way of projecting something that maybe they don't have the opportunity or the faith in themselves or the confidence to go pursue. And so it really usually has nothing to do with you. So to let somebody's opinion block you from really seeing your full potential could really be a waste, because like I said, it's not about you. It's really about them.
Yeah. And I want to address one other issue, or one other thing that might come up, because this just dropped in my spirit. I thought this might come up, because oftentimes when we talk about delegating or hiring a nanny or hiring somebody else to help with certain things while we go pursue, this always comes up. Somebody saying, well, that's nice for you. I can't afford that. Like, thanks. But I don't have the means. There was a time when I didn't have the means either, and you didn't have the means either.
Right.
There's always opportunities that if you want to pursue something and you can't maybe afford right away, to delegate to a babysitter, think about talking to another mom about trading out services. That's how a lot of people do it at the beginning. Trade out some services. Like, I know a lot of moms that do this. They're like, I'll take your kids for 3 hours. You take my kids for 3 hours, and go get some business done. Don't allow anything to stop you. I mean, I would start to realize over time that, okay, in this amount of time, I can make 5 times the amount that I'm spending on a babysitter to watch my kids, to love them, while I go pursue this passion and this business that ended up turning into a multiple 7-figure business. But at the beginning it wasn't. And I have a couple businesses like that, but it wasn't like that at the beginning. So I had to get creative. And so that's why I would say, like, don't make excuses. Don't delay your purpose because of finances or because you don't think you have the time. Because if you really want to pursue it, you will figure it out. And I want to encourage you to get around other people that can help you figure it out, or you can figure it out together. You've got to get scrappy and creative at the beginning. Most people are not willing to do that. I feel like a lot, like I shouldn't say most. I should say, I feel like in this season, I am watching a lot of people say those things and they're not willing to do the hard things at the beginning that I know you did and I know I did. So I just want to put that out there. These are not businesses, mine or yours, that happened overnight or that happened with ease and grace or that happened without the hustle, grind, scrappiness, and all the stuff we had to do early on. And again, that's why I always have, always will just have such mad respect for you and Devin. I will always honor both of you. I always have and I always will, because nobody understands, the behind the scenes of what it takes to grow a worldwide brand, and how long it takes and all the things that happen in between. And I've watched it with both of you, and I know you've watched it with me.
Yep.
And there is a sense of, I'm just going to say a sense of pride that we should have after going through that. And I want to just encourage you, Morgan, and anybody that's listening that has younger kids to just keep going. Don't stop. Don't delay. Don't allow anybody to slow you down, because the world needs what you're putting out and what a lot of women come up with to put out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Again, thank you for my TED Talk.
Thank you. And yeah, as a reminder, guys, Burn Boot Camp started in a parking lot. Like Brooke said, we got scrappy. We had $600. We were living off one income, and that was my income. And we had people no-show us day after day after day throughout those first couple of months. And, if we would have quit then we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have over 350 gyms. And so it's you just keep waking up every day and you make the decisions to do what's in your control and to love on people around you and surround yourself with the right people and keep your head up. So that was my TED Talk.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, well, and that's the thing, Morgan, when you're talking, I'm like, how happy and fulfilled are you? I mean, I know you are, compared to, the Morgan that I knew when you worked a corporate job and you weren't sure if you should leave and you were scared. And, it is scary. It can be scary to go after that thing, because what if it doesn't work out? But what if it doesn't work out? You just go create something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's actually more job security to bet on yourself than to bet on anybody else. And so that's what I've watched you and Devin do. Brett has now joined the club as of 5 years ago, and it's been amazing.
You guys are a dynamic duo, the two of you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, the challenges that come with owning a business, building a business, and how you've allowed your faith to carry you through that. And I'll just say that, for everybody listening, Brooke has helped me get closer and have a stronger relationship, and my faith has grown so much, and it's helped me in business, during the hard times, during the times of uncertainty, during the times of decision making and not really knowing which path to go. It's really about getting quiet and listening and leaning into faith to say, what should I be doing here? So Brooke, talk to me about how you use faith in your business and how it's helped you make decisions or guide you through challenging times.
Every day, all day, girl. I'll tell you this. I use a statement like, make God your CEO. And I'll start there, because the reason why I say that is it kind of puts things in perspective for the way I operate, or the way that we can operate in business. A lot of times when we allow ourselves to see ourselves as CEO, which Morgan, you are, I am, or say you're under somebody else as a CEO. A lot of times we put so much pressure and control in that role that when things don't work out, or we think that we're in control of everything, the pressure is just so high. When I actually tell myself that God is my CEO, it allows me to breathe a little bit differently. It allows me to understand that I'm not in control. He is. And I have to show up and take responsibility. I fully believe in showing up, taking action, skilling up, taking responsibility for everything that you possibly can do. But outside of that and through that, God being the CEO, he's in control, he's in charge, and that's how I would prefer it. And so a lot of times I'll say my scariest prayer is saying, okay, God, I know that you put this in my heart. I know that this is going to be successful, because I believe that you're with me. So how could it not be? It says in scripture that he wants to give us the desires of our heart. So if it's in my heart, if it's in my soul, I believe it's done. I'm just going to show up and walk and talk and act like it's done. I don't like that phrase, fake it till you make it. I like walk, talk, and act like it's done until it's done. And I do that with just speaking to God all day. Like, okay, God, you've got this. But the scariest prayer is, okay, if I got it wrong, my flesh wants it. Like, I think this is it. I'm going to know that this is it. But if I got it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
if for some reason I'm like out of sync with you, God, because your ways are higher, your ways are better, take it away, just remove it. And that's where I believe you and I both have seen suffering within our business, or we've seen challenges that feel like, oh, is this actually going to get better, or suffering in our life or business, where sometimes we think, oh my gosh, did I get it wrong? Was God really there? But
Mm-hmm.
God promises on the other side of suffering, there's glory, there's joy. And if we can really look at the times that both of us have gone through any type of suffering or any type of
Yep.
challenge in our business,
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, it really was glory or joy, because we saw why it happened after. During
Yeah.
it, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can stay with your eyes fixed on that, that's how I bring faith in. Because if I can really evaluate and be self-aware and understand what's really going on after, anytime a challenge arises, I'm just like, okay, God, I trust you. A
Yeah.
lot of times the way I bring God into the business is every day, I'm like, I trust you. I might say, I don't like how this feels, but I
Mm-hmm.
trust you, God. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like feeling a little intimidated right now or afraid of this situation, but I trust you, God.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think sometimes just speaking that out, speaking scripture out that tells us to believe bigger or to have hope for our future. Or there's worship songs. Like there's one of my favorite ones I was just playing this morning. It's called A Sound Mind. And the words say, that you can trade in a spirit of fear for a sound mind so you can think clearly and see
Mm-hmm.
clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's so powerful to think about how God tells us that we are given a sound mind so that we can see clearly, think clearly, like be clear with what he has for us. But a lot of times it's fear, intimidation, or all that other stuff that we talked about earlier. Even like, that's why I don't even like to participate in drama or gossip or anything, because that can come into our mind and we can't see clearly.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't do business any other way, because with God, I can just invite him in. And when you do invite him in, I do believe with your whole heart, if you're serious, he will show up and he
Mm-hmm.
will help you and guide you. And then that control that we have as, CEO or leader, you can let it go a little bit and the pressure relieves a little bit and it just
Yeah.
makes it easier. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you still don't have to take responsibility, show up, take action, do all the things, but it allows you to go, okay, I'm not in control of everything, but God, I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hopefully helpful to anybody that wants to
Yeah,
adopt that.
that's really helpful. And I think too, when you talk about a sound mind, that means you need to remove things, right? Whether that's people or the inputs, right? Because we are living in a world where there's constant stimulation. There's
Yeah.
social media, there's everything in front of us. And if you don't take that time to really listen, and like have a clear head to help you navigate these decisions, you could have the wrong people or the wrong things like impacting how you tackle a challenge. And I think that's something I've had to get a lot better at, because everybody has an opinion about how I should run the business, or how we should run the business, or just an opinion about this or that, right? And it's like, okay, I have to make the decision because I'm the CEO and this is what my job is to make the decision. So I need to get really clear on who I am, who this brand is, who we serve, what we're doing this for. Get really, really clear. Otherwise, things will come in and try to distract you and won't give you that sound mind like you talked about.
Yeah, so true.
So one more question before we wrap up, because we talk a lot about building this community, and we talk how Burn has a very similar community to Live Out Loud, where it's women empowering women, right? That's in my mission statement. I know it's part of yours. It's just empowering women to call them higher, right? And so how do we build an environment like that? If you think back on the last 10 years, Brooke, and I think about this often too, is like, how have we created that environment where we don't allow anything but the positivity and the empowering? And, at the head of it, you and I, what are the things that you think you've intentionally done to help protect the community of women that you have attracted?
I love this question because, the first thing I was thinking about when you said it, I'm like, be a product of the product.
Yeah, that's
but
that's
really,
gotta
like,
happen. Yeah.
I mean, you have to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And I have goosebumps saying this because, Morgan, I know you. I know your heart. I have seen I've witnessed and I've seen and I've heard how women have come against you and
Mm-hmm.
me in different
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to happen. It's women. Unfortunately, it's going to happen sometimes. But I think that what you and I are really good at is, and I'm going to use both of us because I think we're really both good at this. We don't participate in it.
Yeah.
We might hear it, we might know about it, but we don't give it life, because when we give it life, then it just multiplies and it takes up space in our body, our mind, to what God's calling us to do. Now, it hasn't always been like that for me, for sure. And I just had something recent happen again. And I realized, okay, I've come a long way, because I just want to tell women that when that happens to you, because listen, there's always going to be, we can stand for it and we can create this community, which I believe the reason why we both have a community like this, that's, I always say I'm here for the long game. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't need any like short-term satisfaction to try
Yes.
to take anybody down or get back at somebody. Even if somebody has come against me and said something, I really don't even want to hurt them back. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even have that, like, I don't even want to. I
Revenge.
don't even
Yeah.
want that in my atmosphere. And you're the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But to say it doesn't hurt and to say you don't want to defend is also hard. But what I
Yeah.
will say is that when you're a leader and you're cultivating a community of women that you want to have long term, and that you want them to trust you, you've got to lead by example, and you've got to recover faster, and
Mm-hmm.
you've got to hold your head up high, and you've got to speak out what you speak out, and you've got to live it out. So,
Yeah.
for me, I always say zero tolerance policy for gossip, offense, bitterness, jealousy. And so I know I'm not out there gossiping, and I know I'm not out there. I'm not a jealous person. I love to promote everybody.
Yes,
Like, it's my
you
favorite thing
do.
to do.
You're
Like
so
when
good
you're
at that.
successful, I'm like, yes, I'm successful too, because I love you. But as far as bitterness and offense, those are two things that I probably are my weaknesses, because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard not to get like bitter at something that has come against you, or that you're not, that's something that is not right. It's hard to not get offended. That's probably the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
That spirit of offense that's like, gosh, how can I not be offended at this? So
Right.
those are two things that I know are my weaknesses, that I really practice when something comes against me, so I can use it as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will say, from a faith perspective, one of our biggest armors that we have is total forgiveness, total love, and total peace.
Mm-hmm.
If we can walk in forgiveness and peace and love, doesn't mean that we have to invite that into our inner circle. I have learned that, I can forgive and I can remove certain people from my inner circle and just not participate, but I can still walk around with forgiveness and peace and love, so it doesn't affect or impact me.
Yeah.
And so I think when we constantly practice that, because if you're going to be the leader of that, you are going to have practice with that, because
Yes.
there's just going to be things that come against you constantly when you're trying to build that kind of community. And it's not easy, but I have grown and learned, and again, my recovery time is so much faster. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
want to encourage people with. It doesn't mean we can't feel
Yeah.
hurt, or our heart doesn't hurt, because I have a very tender heart and it hurts often when
Yeah.
things happen. However, I have to like regroup with people that really know me. And then I have to, and not that I'm talking about it, I just have to say, hey, remind me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me like what I'm here to do. I have to stay on mission, and I just have to like let it go.
Yeah.
And I just have to like keep moving, and knowing that God is watching everything, and I'm here to do something, and he's going to bless it, and he's going to shine the light on what needs to be shined, the light on. And then
Yeah.
any darkness has to go. Any darkness has to flee. And again, I just become more and more aware of what needs to be removed in my life. And then guess what? God replaces and multiplies it so many
Yes.
times when certain things happen that are dark, or discouraging, or maybe the wrong person that did get mixed into the community. When I say wrong
Yeah.
person, I do have, like, again, zero tolerance policy. I'm not going, if I find out about it, I don't want that to, be to represent what I'm saying is true. And again, the bigger you get, as big as you are, you can't see and hear everything. But I think the more that you speak out and live it out, people want that. What woman doesn't want to be in that kind of environment? I
Right.
mean, it is so draining to be in any other kind of environment. That's why you have grown so fast, why you continue to multiply, because women are looking for a place where they can go and get high-fived and be treated amazing and be
Mm-hmm.
encouraged, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what they look like, no matter what size, shape they are, and that's what you provide. And that's what I know I provide.
Yeah.
And so I just in a different way. And I think that when you lead with that and your heart is pure in that, it will continue to multiply. And I just, I really want to encourage anybody else out there that's building something like that. Just don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap of being, the opposite of what you say you want, because it's very dangerous. And the other thing I'll say, Morgan, the way that I'm able to sustain that is I talk about it often. And I say, listen, you don't have to raise your hand right now, but if you were just gossiping or talking about me, just stop. Or if you were just doing something, just stop. You can start fresh today. Don't be that girl. Don't be that woman. Come on. We're better than that. Keep moving.
Yeah.
And I think if anybody is doing it, it kind of convicts their spirit. Because think about it. If you're in a group of women and a few of them are just talking crap, and you say something like that, they're like, oh, shoot, But we all are human, and, we have opportunities to make it better. So,
yeah. I'll add 2 things to that before we do wrap up. I think number one, if we compared, the Morgan 10 years ago and the Brooke 10 years ago to who we are now, we've built so much confidence over time. And I do think confidence has helped us, stand boldly in what we believe in and kind of shake the other stuff off much quicker, like you said. And it all had to happen the way it had to happen. We had to go through some of that pain and suffering. We're going to have to continue to go through some of that, because like you said, on the other side is going to come a new level of confidence and even conviction in ourselves for who we are and who we aren't, right? It also is just a good reminder to lean in and be thankful that you're not causing harm to another woman's life the way that they are, and I just think confidence for me is what I've seen is the biggest game changer, is leaning into the hard things, going through them the way I have to go through them, and then just quickly saying, okay, but I don't get my validation from them, and I'm going to keep moving, because guess what? There's so many other people out there that need me to serve, and they need me to, wake up today and go after it. Yeah. And so if I let that stuff knock me down for too long, who is going to be impacted that really needs the messages or needs me to show up for work and needs me to keep growing burn? And so it took me a while to realize that, but I think the confidence and like you said, it's about walking the talk and being that person. And yes, you might slip into it here and there, where you hear something, but be quick to just, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore, because it does us no good. It wastes our time. But I've seen you come a long way in confidence. I know you've seen me come a long way, but it doesn't come overnight. So if you're listening to this and you're seeking confidence in yourself, just know that it takes practice, reps, but you've got to surround yourself with the right people, because I can't tell you how many times I've called Brooke, in tears or, questioning a lot of things. And she was on the other line, building me up, praying for me, giving me words of encouragement. And just knowing you have that support can help you get through some of the hard things. So that's why the community is so important to find. So thank you for being that for me and for so many other women.
Well, you're welcome. And you've been that for me too. Again, there's nothing that can exchange, I would say, time, like how long you've known somebody and consistently been there for them or know who they really are. And I always say your reputation is everything. And I really believe that, that's so true for you. And that's where, you have to have people that will speak life into you and remind you who you are and won't leave you there. I have a good friend just recently that was like, we're not even going to participate in this conversation about what somebody else said, because it's like so laughable that it's not even true. But like, I'm just going to remind you who you are, the mission that you're on, and we're going to stop talking about it right now. And you need girlfriends like that too, that don't want to sit there. Cause sometimes you want to feel sorry for yourself and you want other people to feel sorry for you, but it really is like a waste of time. And so, I just, we're both like that, I think, for each other. And you've got to have people like that, because when you get slammed or hit on a bad day, sometimes you're on the floor and you need someone to pick you up. You go, okay, keep going. Because it's not easy it's not like any CEO or leader or anybody that's building or creating anything. I've never met one that has been massively successful and said, oh my goodness, it was so easy. I've never had any issues. I don't even know.
I don't think that exists. So, all right, Brooke. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Burn Boot Camp podcast. I know our listeners are going to want to know where they can find you. So share with us your social, where they can find you on Live Out Loud, and listen to your podcast too.
Yes, thank you. You can find me at Live Out Loud Brooke on Instagram. That's where I play the most over there. Also, I'm on, Facebook and all the things, but BrookeThomas.com. It is also where you can find everything. That's pretty easy, just BrookeThomas.com. And then, of course, I have the Live Out Loud show, which I did an awesome episode with Morgan. I'd love to have you back on. But that episode was fire that we did about, 6 months ago or something. Yeah, that was a really great episode. So, you can find me there too. And I just really appreciate you having me on. I love your community. I love you. And I'm just so grateful to just share anytime. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, guys, we'll put all that in the show notes so you can directly reach out to Brooke. As always, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you do not miss a single episode. And guys, we will talk to you later. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.